69. Be Reformative. The promises of Allah are nothing but the dialogues of a jail to an ignorant man. Sense organs are the greatest enemy of mankind. It is worse and fatal. Collects power from the compromise with the sense organs and by its provocations. A man who is the slave of his desires is worse than an animal. Don't engage your mind in sense organs desires. He who sacrifices his sexual tendency out of love for the Creator is the best. Mind cursed for its superiority complex egoism and disobedience. Man deviate from the path of Allah by prohibited and hated acts by offensive and slang words and acts. They misinterpret religious book intentionally say that it is false, says that the Holy Quran is a slang epic, may Allah excuse us, calls the invitation for prayer a slang music, call mosque a market, home a bathroom, take food without uttering the name of Allah and take wine as water. Women are like the trapping nets and the astrologers are the messengers of the star. Restlessness cheats mankind and provoketh them for anger, lust, envy, greed, eating full belly, being inclined towards wealth and property, expectation to other man for something instead of Allah or being dependent on their help, firmless, passions, misery and being too much conservative regarding the slight difference of religion. A distresses man wants to get relief gripping religion and prejudices. A huge asset to hard labor, a great enterprise and ever a sound mentality are wasted meaninglessly due to prejudices. Blind believers are those who believe in the imaginary technique for fulfilling desire. Those who hanker after fulfilling their desires but are lazy and fool can never attain salvation. Disbelievers always suffer from suspicion, indecision and restlessness. Those who are weak-minded, restless and don't have mental stability are really destitute. For example, there is no bad sign in the hooting of an owl, but it is one's a prejudice. All prejudices are like that. When common people find that someone is having an uncommon physical strength, they take him as a supernatural man. To think something or somebody as supernatural is nothing but ignorance and prejudice. We should leave dependence on supernaturalism. We should be self-confident and should strengthen ourselves to a great extent. Misreading ideas about ghosts, devil, messengers of the gods, blessing, curse, soul, reaction, astrology, Bumiist, sin, virtue, good or bad policy, good, bad, aristocrat and locust, a lead social system etc. make grounds for prejudices. They remain poor all the time who are fogged by religious prejudices. The main reason of prevailing extortion and poverty in the underdeveloped countries is feudalistic prejudices and relation. Religious prejudices are too much harmful to flourishment of knowledge. Both religion and poverty are neglected in this world. They are conservative who are not cultured, they can't accept even a slight change in old ideas. Religious conservatism makes a poor poorer. Until now, we have not been able to get relief of prejudices. Previously there was religious prejudices and now scientific prejudices have replaced it. Previously spiritualize was practiced widely and now people are running after sex and greed. Throw away the old prejudices and start a new life. Life is temporary and time is passing fast. Way is long but the time is short. Leave prejudices and try to see the surprising coordinations of the nature. There is nothing better for mankind without getting relieved from low mentality, narrowness, disparity, ignorance and sorrows. Prejudices are nothing but the child of ignorance. Ignorance comes from illiteracy. Ignorance fixed people to superstition and in false faith. Ignorance, unconsciousness and injustice are great problem than poverty. Prejudice are one of the most important factor for lunacy. Their consciences are dead who are prejudiced. There is a dark side in everybody's life and it is his prejudice. Literates and illiterates, wise man and fools all are at the same stage in respect of prejudices. It is not possible to drive away prejudices by logic, it is possible by the light of education and knowledge. Prejudices burn the whole world and philosophy extinguishes it. The conscience which is inactive and having no enthusiasm should be avoided. Honesty is proved by one's sorrows, illness and extreme wants. When a person is habituated to committing sins, he should try to convert his negative mental attitudes into positive. In this way, Gradually his negative mental attitudes will become weaker and positive ones stronger. Avoid letting doubtful negative attitude and attain a positive attitude. Don't struggle against the life and accept your fate, rather engage yourself in new matters one after another and enjoy the life. Not an occurrence but the negative way thinking about it makes a life bitter. So negative attitude should be changed in this moment itself. It is a proven fact that human tendency changes. So one's feelings depend on his attitude. An act and a feeling are interrelated. Feelings can be changed by changing one's acts. An attitude depends on a controlled activity. It is possible to create a feeling as required by controlling a job. Because after doing something a feeling about that enters in one's mind. So when people are informed regarding an honest purpose, they and their beliefs can be changed easily. If a man is praised nicely, he will try to be a good man. He who is habituated to conduct himself by advices will not understand reasons or philosophy. Again, an advice will be useless to a person who believes in reason. Better try to convince people instead of blaming them. Advise an offender instead of punishing him. It may be effective for the ignorant and fool offenders. Good and bad have the equal role to shape a character. Sometimes a sorrow teaches a man more than a happiness can do. Rather poverty than wealth and defamation than praise helps a man in the long run. All the harmful things in the world are created by ourselves. As most of the distressed conditions of man is the result of his past dishonest acts. All the men and women controlling birth nowadays are all virtuous. If they don't believe in virtue, then they deserve regard and honor. All our activities at present are the result of previous reforms. It will again become the cause of our future activities. And the process will go on. The feelings of our psychophysical activities become the fine reforms. The conscious reforms are the memories. Every material is perishable. A formless entity is free from the influence of any incentive. Everybody is guided by the strongest reform of his mind. Everybody of us will arrive in such a state when we shall think that the whole world was nothing but a dream. Man loves their life so much that he wants a long life, even he expects a life hereafter. This is purification. Heaven is nothing but a prejudice imagined by our desires. And desires are always a source of bondage. Our desires are integrated with our temporary and changing life as a reform. We become the slaves of reforms due to mental reforms, mental emotions and intellectual arguments. We define the incentives as good or bad on the basis of our past reforms and feelings. Even this feeling is created in our consciousness without any present cause. Reforms are resisted with the resistance of illiteracy. We should understand our mental problems and uproot it. To eradicate superstitions, duplicity, artificiality, appropriate self-knowledge is enough. Reform yourself outwardly and inwardly. Protect yourself from bad habits. There are 3 kinds of reforms. Those are physical, verbal and mental reforms. Embellishment, universe, all materials, inanimate objects and all our activities are being reformed gradually. Every reform is temporary. Reform are perishable and full of sorrow. Everything in the world is quite temporary, reproductive and perishable. No reform remains the same forever. Sign of reformation: it is temporary. Have no self-sadness, it is worthless. Mentality of restless man is coarse, rather fine, like an illiterate man. He who wants to get relief from his ignorance should at first admit his ignorance. Reforms are created according to one's character, education and environment. Reforms comes from within the mind of a man. Valuable theories are reformed by the wise people. Control on sense organs comes from educational reforms. Don't follow or observe which you don't understand. Lead a glorious life without any prejudice.